Now I'd like to welcome to the podium Senator William Conley, who's chair of the Senate Finance Committee and is bringing greetings from the Senate. Thanks for coming today.
Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to bring you the greetings of the Rhode Island Senate. The topic of today's conference, workforce development. Where do you begin, right? Where do you begin? Workforce development has been a central focus of the Rhode Island Senate Finance Committee and, frankly, all of my colleagues. We recognize workforce development as being important not only to our economy, but the training and education we provide that enhances workforce development is transformative to the lives of those people we impact because of the inherent dignity of work. And providing that training, that education opportunity is not only important to our economic development and the future of our state, but it's important to every single person that has the opportunity to realize the dignity of work through those programs. In the Senate, we have designed legislation around what we call our Road to Work program. It's an initiative focused on all education levels, but particularly much of it is dedicated to adult education and worker training. While it's an important strategy to boost our economy through worker training, one of the things that we have come to realize is that workforce investment begins at the earliest years in life. It begins in some ways even before birth. That's why we see legislation such as our Home Visiting Act as important to workforce development as it is to its primary goals, because although it's voluntary, the intervention that we are able to provide to families at risk begin sending the message and begin creating the opportunities for a healthy environment that can lead to a flourishing cultural and civic experience that really is the foundation of workforce development. Quality preschool programs are critical to workforce development. And I've had a wonderful week. I've had 2 mornings this week where I've had a chance to go to, preschool programs. And first of all, the first thing that strikes you when you walk in the room is just you're surrounded by unremitted joy. And that's a great way to start the day, because most occasions the rest of my day is not very warm and fuzzy. And what you see going on in those classrooms is just how much those kids are learning. And they don't know it because they're having fun. And that's the way their educational experience should begin. And what we all know in this room is that the data is overwhelming. If we are going to have success at the high school and post-secondary end of that spectrum, it needs to begin in pre-K. And so when we talk about workforce development and understand that education is the fundamental principle for it, we need to know that we need to invest in that from cradle through post-secondary education. we are proud to work with the governor in many of the initiatives that she has brought to our state. For instance, Governor Raimondo, I'm sorry, this is the allergy season, and I have a bit of a hoarse voice. I apologize for that. But Governor Raimondo has helped ensure access to computer science in every school with her P-TECH initiative. And that's putting high school students on the path to a college degree while they're still in high school. That's incredibly important to success when those students get to their post-secondary education opportunities. With the education funding formula being phased in, it really now is time to focus on our school buildings, because we need to create flourishing educational environments for our students from pre-K through high school. Now, we had hearings in the Senate. We held joint hearings on the $250 billion bond proposal with both finance and education. And the testimony we heard was incredibly compelling on why we need to do this. And Governor Raimondo and Treasurer Magaziner deserve our thanks and gratitude for leading on this issue and making it a priority, a legislative priority this year, and a priority for our entire state. In the Senate, I remember when my first year in the Senate, Senator Ryan Pearson came up to me and grabbed me by the scruff of my legislative neck and said, "This moratorium has to end. And I want you to be part of a special study committee where we're going to look at the status of our schools." And the seminal study for what the governor and Treasurer Magaziner and that task force worked on began in the Rhode Island Senate, and I'm very proud of that. Senator Golden, chair of the Senate Finance Committee, was a critical member of that task force and came back to the Senate in this session and has advocated for it from day one. Now, as we get closer to the end of our session and we are looking at the budget very closely, starting to hear some discussion, some whispers that we can't do a $250 million bond. Now, let me tell you, that task force did its work. What we know in reality is that we could use more than the $250 million. What we know is that our students, our educators need every nickel of that $250 billion for the future of Rhode Island students. So as this discussion goes forward, I'm asking every one of you here, if you start to listen to somebody telling you that we can't afford it, we can afford it, in fact, we can't afford not to do it, push back and push back hard. At the risk of being repetitive, as Brett has just told us, we have some real success stories here in terms of workforce development. The Wesley Education Center, Real Jobs, Rhode Island. We just told you about the success of that, the partnerships that have created thousands of jobs, with partnerships with dozens of companies in Real Jobs, Rhode Island. That really should be a permanent part of our workforce development in the state of Rhode Island, and the Senate Finance Committee is prepared to try to make that happen. I want to thank the Economic Progress Institute for all the analysis that, besides the advocacy that you do, for all the analysis that you provide to us as we work through the budget. I can tell you that although this is really only my first anniversary of being able to serve in that capacity, I really have come to rely upon the analysis that you provide to us. It's based on real data, not selective data. It's always based on a sound analysis of that data. And the conclusions that are arrived at through that analysis, I know is sound, reliable, and is something that we can incorporate into our understanding of the budget and what our budget needs are. On a personal note, I particularly want to thank EPI for the analysis it provided on a project that I think is very important to the economic development future of the state of Rhode Island, and that's the ballpark at Slater Mill. Now, economic development obviously serves workforce development, but a part of workforce development, a part of economic development, should be accompanied by a cultural and civic appreciation of why jobs serve others and why those jobs have meaning in a greater societal context. Entrepreneurs not only want to look at states that are committed to workforce development, but they want to bring their families to places that put that workforce development and put those jobs in a meaningful and real cultural and civic context. Part of doing that is appreciating your history. And the ballpark at Slater Mill is as much a celebration of our cultural history at the gateway to America's newest national park as it is about workforce development. Now, I apologize to you for this unabashed pitch for this, but EPI did an analysis that was underappreciated in the public hearings, but our committee took to heart. And we incorporated at least two of the insights directly from that EPI analysis that made that Senate bill a complete bill and made us appreciate the full context of what that kind of project can mean for the state of Rhode Island. So, as I said, after that really unabashed, promotional pitch for the ballpark at Slater Mill, I want to thank EPI for what it does for the Senate budget analysis. I want to thank you for what you do for your advocacy and let you know that the Senate Finance Committee looks forward to working with you through this session and the next sessions to come. Thank you.